Says stop share. Yes. Okay. Thank you. All right. Cool. All right. So, yeah, liking this new color, huh? I tweaked it a little bit more. All right. So, what are we talking about? Coronavirus course correction. Is that the best name for this? I'm not sure. Basically, the idea was this, that obviously with this whole coronavirus thing happening, I don't know if I'm seeing on here too, because I didn't see myself first. Um, what this obviously, just a huge bomb going off in all of our lives. So I wanted to address it specifically because we're 5-6 weeks into this whole thing, the quarantine, all the rest of it. And so it's kind of a good idea to kind of take stock of things, and get refocused on it. So as I always like to say, weight and health mastery is not about being perfect. It's about getting back on track quickly. And that's what this lesson is really all about. It's about getting back on track to whatever degree you want to get back to. Now, by the way, if you've been totally fine, some people, there's a couple people I've talked to where it's like they're just fine. They've used this as an opportunity, like they got to pull back from work a bit and they've been able to focus more on some of their health and weight. That's not been me. That's not been most of the people I've talked to. But so if everything's been going perfect for you, again, then this will just be a reinforcement. But for most of us, it was, you may have found your eating or your exercising fall off, or your eating hasn't been the greatest. And that's really what this is about. It's about kind of accepting that, being at peace with it, and then being able to get back on track somewhat. Okay. And using this as an opportunity to do that. So again, I can't state this enough, that so often we're conditioned to think that our weight loss is dependent on us being perfect. And it's so not true, because perfection is just impossible, especially when it comes to our eating. And so it's really about being able to get back on track quickly, how quickly you can do it. And so you've heard me say that, and this is another example of that situation. And so, again, it's an opportunity for you to say right now, like, where are you at right now? How have things been? Okay. They've been great. They've been okay. They've been horrible. Again, there's no judgment in any of this, and I don't want you to judge yourself. We're going to talk about regret and kind of getting frustrated with ourselves in a few moments and letting that go. But honestly, where are you at right now? Kind of take stock of that. When you look back on it, knowing what you know now, and again, doing this without judgment, without regret, what could you have done better? Right now, again, this is knowing what you know now. This is 2020, hindsight. This is Monday morning quarterback. So again, we understand that, but that's how we learn. Okay. So we look at the past, we say, okay, what could I have done better? That's how we learn, and we condition ourselves. How are we going to do better in the next few weeks, months, however long this is going to go on. If you're in kind of a unique situation, now it's an opportunity to kind of take stock of how things have been and how we want them to go. Because a lot of times, when this whole thing kind of hits, it was just like, like, again, like our foundation was blown up with this whole thing. Okay. So it's normal. We're going to go through this in a few moments specifically, but it's normal to get off track. Okay. It's completely understandable. But now, even if things are crazy, it becomes kind of a new normal. We adapt, we normalize to the situation now. And now we say, okay, knowing what I know now, if I look in the past, what could I have done differently? And looking forward, how could I implement some of those changes? Okay. Because you have more wisdom now than you did 6 weeks ago. Okay. So you can prepare better for it. And what I suggest to people, now again, this is kind of not what you expect to hear from kind of a coach. It's always, you can do better, you can do great. This doesn't have to stop you. I personally have kind of lowered my expectations a bit here. I did as soon as this whole thing kind of kicked off, because again, I understand that there's all sorts of new things that are using up my mental bandwidth and that I don't have to put towards living healthy. Okay. And so I kind of lowered my expectations. I don't think I'm going to, now again, I'm starting to change now a bit. Okay. I'm starting to kind of get back to normal a bit, but it's not my best, and so again, why? Well, I've got my kids home all the time now. I've got there's different situations that require more of my thinking, more of my attention. I don't have as much attention to give to my health and my eating and all the rest of it. I'm just being honest, and I don't think that's a bad place to be, because again, I think we have to regulate our expectations based on the situation, and when all of a sudden there's a bomb thrown off in the middle of our lives, I don't think it does any good to just expect we're going to be perfect. If anything, I see that being something that makes us kind of worse off, because not only can we not be perfect, but now we're kind of, piling on top of ourselves, beating ourselves up about it. Okay. So again, what I would suggest is progress over perfection. You know what I mean? Just again, it's these steps of just keep improving, keep improving, keep improving. That's how I think, is a better way to kind of approach this. Reduce to the ridiculous, real simple. This is just, this kind of goes along with the progress over perfection. Instead of thinking you're going to be perfect, you're going to hit your best numbers or your best, tracking stats you've ever hit, you kind of lower it down a little bit if you've been having some struggles or challenges, and we reduce it to the ridiculous. So maybe in your mind you say, well, I want to exercise half an hour every day. Well, maybe you turn that, and you haven't been exercising the last 3 weeks. Maybe we start with 5 minutes a day. Okay. It's a very, very effective technique. And again, if you're a perfectionist type of person, this will be very powerful to you, because instead of thinking we have to get ourselves to achieve the perfect thing to do that's really hard and difficult right now, we lower it down. Let's just get ourselves to do it. My favorite yoga quote is, what's the hardest posture to do? And he says, getting on the mat, right? So they asked the guru, what's the hardest posture there is? It's just getting on the mat. Getting started is always the biggest barrier. And so if we can lower that barrier by making it really simple and saying, I'm going to do 2 minutes of meditation, I'm going to do 5 minutes of movement, I'm going to eat 1 piece of fruit, again, whatever it may be, once we do it, it's just, we've gotten over the hardest part. And now it's easier to just continue. Or even if we don't continue, at least we did something, right? And again, that's part of that kind of lowering the expectations. I can't tell you how important that is. All right. So again, reduce the ridiculous is kind of a strategy you can use under that umbrella of kind of lowering the expectations a bit. And again, changing them from, instead of hitting perfect numbers, to just focusing on consistency. So instead of that half hour a day, if we can do it every day for 5 minutes, again, that's the success and the win now. And again, just to kind of set the frame around it, because especially now, time's kind of weird, right? For a lot of us, because one of our normal time markers of how we live our lives. And I notice, like, even now it's weird, because as the summer is kind of approaching, it's like, man, I'm not going to be going, I might not be going on vacation. You know what I mean? So it's like plans that I kind of relied on and I look forward to during the summer. And then, now they might not happen. So that's kind of weird. But what can be helpful is to recognize, where do I want to be next year at this time? One of my favorite questions to ask, especially when it comes to weight and health, because we're so conditioned to think short term. And so understand that, maybe the last 6 weeks haven't been great for you. Maybe the next 4 weeks won't be perfect for you. But again, this isn't about being perfect now. It's about consistently improving. You know what I mean? Every big win is an accumulation of small wins. All right. So again, where do you want to be next year at this time? And I like that time frame, because it takes the pressure off of, when we zoom in, the last 6 weeks can feel like overwhelming. Oh my God, I blew it. Right. If we take the last 6 weeks and then add, 10 and a half months to it, or, 46 weeks to it, it doesn't feel as overwhelming. It doesn't feel as like we've been doomed. All right. So thinking in terms of a year is really, really key. It can be very helpful. Okay. Especially if you've had the greatest, past month or so. Okay. Let's talk about letting go of regret. I think this is so important. And this is specific to the coronavirus. Okay. Specifically to the last 6 weeks here. So I like to make a distinction between reasons and excuses. I think this is very, very valuable, because sometimes, again, with the perfectionist, it's like everything's an excuse, right? There's nothing that should be able to stop my perfection. I should be able to eat perfect, work out, do everything perfect, no matter what the situation is. And I'm telling you, that is, in my opinion, that is a mindset that is so toxic. I can't stand it. And so, I think there's legitimate reasons sometimes. And so my definitions are simple. Reasons are legit causes that you're working to fix, right? So you're aware of them and you're working to fix them. And excuses are basically legit causes that you're not working to fix, right? So now in the short term, I would say coronavirus up till now has been a reason. I don't think there's any way you'd convince me that it was an excuse at this point, because for I don't even care. I mean, no matter what your situation is, your life has been kind of flipped upside down by this whole thing. You're home all the time now, or you're working all the time now because you're essential in a dangerous environment. You don't know what the economy is going to do. Maybe you got kids. There's just so much going on that what is happening, and I got to kind of rate this in the next one. There's been unprecedented uncertainty in our lives right here. Okay. That makes it a reason. Now, again, I kind of picked this time here because it's about 6 weeks in, and I'm still not convinced that this would be considered an excuse. Okay. But what I'm saying is, you can kind of make a line in the sand here and say, okay, now I'm going to start getting back to somewhat normal here. And that's what the purpose of all this is. But I want you to let go of the last 6 weeks if they haven't been great for you. Because as I said, it's just unprecedented uncertainty and a couple other things we're going to go through here. And you have to, there's a client I work with, and she's a teacher. And so she's a perfectionist, but she's always thinking to herself that she should be perfect regardless of whether it's the last 2 months that are crazy of school or whether she's got all the time off during the summer. She kind of thinks I should be perfect both of those situations. But how can that be? I mean, if you really look at it, how can you be perfect when there's a global pandemic and when everything's just running smoothly as normal? You know what I mean? Like you got to be, come on, you know? So if you've kind of struggled the last couple of weeks, it's okay. It really is. If you can't struggle during a global pandemic, then when are you going to struggle, right? So again, with all the uncertainty, but again, even the uncertainty is starting to, there's still a lot of uncertainty, but again, if there's one good that humans are good at, it's adapting. Okay. And so we kind of create this new normal, and we get used to the situation as it is right now a bit more than we were. And so it's a good opportunity to kind of take stock of things and kind of improve things a bit. Not aim for perfection yet, because things are still crazy, but improvement. And another thing is that you have to recognize is that you've been on this emotional roller coaster. And there's not a person on the planet right now that you could convince me they haven't been on an emotional roller coaster. I mean, how could you not? Right? So these are just a few flavors of the emotional roller coasters you may be experiencing. You may be experiencing or have experienced multiple of these, right? You might be bored at home. Or you might be spending all day home. That might be boring. You might be a people person, and now you're just by yourself. Worry, right? So again, I have certainly been guilty of this. When there's a global pandemic, there are multiple things to worry about. And even if you feel like you're not worrying, I can almost guarantee you in the background, your brain's trying to figure everything out and it's worrying about stuff. Stress, right? From the uncertainty, from the fear, it's just obvious causes of stress, right? And if you're not feeling any stress from this and haven't, what? How's that possible? Learning new things. Now, this is for people that have had to learn how to work remotely. Okay. So if all of a sudden you're not a technical person and all of a sudden you're expected to learn how to remote work using all this new technology, again, it's using up your mental resources and it makes us more reactionary. It stresses us out. Okay. And again, as I said, those are just a few flavors of the emotional roller coaster that we experience. And again, I say roller coaster because, and I want to make this clear, that at one point you can feel like on top of the world. You're like, oh, I get to sleep in. I'm kind of relaxed. I finally get to calm down and slow down a little bit for a while here. And then, 10 minutes later, you might be freaking out about something. Okay. Completely and totally normal considering the situation. Okay. And so if you've been experiencing that, again, please let go of the regret, let go of the blaming yourself for the last couple of weeks. Okay. I'm going to try to make excuses for you, but come on, you've got to make a distinction between excuses and reasons here. And the global pandemic, the first of our lifetime, to me qualifies as a legitimate reason. Okay. And again, you're working on fixing it now. That's what this is all about. Okay. Is what can I do to make it better? Right. And then the next one is disappearance of routines and cues. Okay. So that's happened for all of us, right? No matter what. You can't go to a restaurant anymore. You can't go to see a show. You can't, you know what I mean? You can't watch sports. Like all of a sudden our typical routines and cues have disappeared. And what that does is it causes us to be more cognitive. Remember this, your prefrontal cortex, the part of you that's logical, that makes you, it runs on glucose. Okay. Which is the same thing your muscles run on. So as soon as your routines and cues disappear, you have to think a lot more, which uses up more energy in your body, which is one more reason why you may be hungrier and eating more. It might be a reason why you're feeling tired. Okay. It's kind of like if you ever gone to a vacation to a place you've never been to, right? Again, it's fun, but it's also mentally, it's kind of taxing, right? Because you have to think and decide every little thing you're going to do, right? Because you're not at home with your normal routines where you just run on autopilot. So when we take ourselves off of routines and cues, when we take ourselves out of autopilot mode, it takes a lot more energy. Okay. And so you have to appreciate that. Again, who am I talking to? I'm talking to kind of the perfectionist mentality where it's like, no matter what happens, I should be better. Okay. Well, this is a situation where there's legitimate reasons here that you may have been more tired, been more hungrier, not been as healthy as you normally are. And then finally, increased or decreased exposure to people. Right. And again, it works both ways. You may be not seeing the people you really like to see every day. Right? Maybe you have coworkers that you like seeing and it's enjoyable and it's fun to see them. And now you don't get to see them. Okay. That creates stress. You may all of a sudden increase your exposure to people that kind of stress you out, right? You may be spending out 24 hours a day with people all day long and you might be getting on each other's nerves a bit. Completely normal. And so these are all things that you may have been experiencing. And The first few weeks of it's kind of like topsy-turvy, right? You're just getting your bearings. At this point, hopefully you've settled into some kind of new routines with the situation, right? And so now it's an opportunity kind of, again, to draw that line in the sand and say, okay, you know, I'm going to make this line in the sand. Coronavirus did this to me. The first 6 weeks was kind of like, you know, very disorienting. Now let me kind of calm down, look where I'm going, and make things better. Okay. And that's the goal here. But please let go of the regret if you have any. Okay. Let all of it go. Okay. 6 weeks is nothing. You could not have done that much damage in 6 weeks, no matter what. Okay. So let's just let it go and kind of start anew here. Okay. With the new reality that we're all in. So the pain of an unhealthy lifestyle, I always like to do this in order to get our bearings, because if you've been living unhealthy, if you've been making some unhealthier choices, now again, this isn't black or white. You know what I mean? Like I can tell you for me, like if you've known, I stopped eating at night when I was 20. That was my big first thing to control my weight. Well, the last 6 weeks, I've eaten more at night than I have in the last 20 years. No lie. Now I'm not eating every night. It's not all the time. I'm not eating crazy, but I am eating more, and it's at night, and I'm eating more, and I'm making poor food choices. No question about it. So what I want to do though, is I want to utilize this. Okay. I want to utilize some of my unhealthier choices because they're right there, right? I'm experiencing them. Okay. And so what you want to look at is, if you have been somewhat unhealthy or off track, it's an opportunity to look face to face with and say, how does living this way make me feel? Okay. So again, I'm utilizing my unhealthy decisions. I'm not beating myself up. I've eaten at night. I ate like a bag of tortilla chips the other night, these Red Hot Blue things. Don't ever start on those, I'll tell you. So I ate a bunch of those at night. Then I ate like some neighbors had brought some cake over. I'm eating pieces of cake 12 at night. So I'm doing all this stuff, and I don't normally do that. But instead of beating myself up, I'm noticing the next morning I wake up and I feel really weirdly full, because I don't normally do that. And so how does living that way make me feel? Again, this is something I did 25 years ago. So I'm trying to tell you, this is how you utilize poor decisions. And this is way more effective than just beating yourself up, because now I'm face to face with the direct mental and emotional consequence, and physical, of these decisions. And so how I felt when I woke up in the morning, I felt stuffed. I almost felt a little bit of heartburn. It honestly, it kind of made me depressed to think I did that, because I kind of let myself down a little bit, because that's always been a big deal to me. Now I've done it multiple times. Okay. But each time I do it, I say, I don't beat myself up about it. Say, oh, you jerk, why'd you do that? You know better than that. I am connecting with the experience that I have after I've made that decision. And the experience I have is I feel kind of depressed about it. I don't like living this way. In my mind, I say, if I started doing this all the time, where would that lead me to? Okay. It kind of stresses me out, right? So I haven't been doing as much yoga, and my body's tenser, right? I feel kind of sore. I don't feel as flexible. I feel like I've lost some of my flexibility. And so I'm kind of bummed out about that. Right. Now again, and so you pick your own things, and that's what you're doing. You're attaching the pain to the behaviors. You understand? It's a lot different than just saying you're a bad person. See, a lot of times we make a bad choice and we attach the pain to ourselves, and we say you're bad for doing that. And what we're saying here is that decision, that behavior makes me feel pain. That's what we want to do. Okay. So if you've made some poor decisions or some unhealthy decisions, it's an opportunity to look at it and say, how did that make me feel physically, mentally, and emotionally? And again, here's just some words to get you started. There's other words. Okay. And that's how we start to think about it. So if I'm tempted to eat at night, what happens is because we have two ways to think about it. I can think about eating at night as being really tasty and good, right? And it is. Or I can think about eating at night as, when I wake up tomorrow, I feel kind of bummed out with myself. I feel kind of lethargic. I feel less like my true ideal self. Kind of go back to last week's lesson. Okay. So for you, that's how I would suggest you kind of frame this. Right. And again, here's some words to help you do that. And then how you want to feel. Right. So again, we start with the pain, then we flip over to the pleasure. How I want to feel. Okay. And this is, again, letting go of the last 6 weeks. How do you want to feel the next 6 weeks? Assuming it's somewhat similar. I want to feel more in control. I don't think I have that written there. I want to feel healthier. I want to feel lighter. I want to feel like kind of cleaner. That's a word I like to use. When I feel like lighter, my body just kind of feels emptier. There's less food in it. There's healthier food in it. There's lots of water. There's lots of sleep. These are things that make my body feel vibrant, feel good. Okay. And this is my driving force. This is my North Star that I'm always moving towards. Okay. Sometimes I make decisions that aren't in alignment with that, but that's okay because I remind myself that's not how I want to feel. In the moment, it tastes good, but ultimately, I want these bigger things. I want to feel happy. I want to feel peaceful. I want to feel, again, vibrant, healthy, lucky, in control, in the flow, right? These are all the things I want to feel. I want to feel light. I want to feel energized. Okay. So how do you want to feel? Right? How do you want to feel? This is the kind of the motivation that's working behind the scenes. The pain of making the wrong decision, the pleasure of making the right decision. And we really want to focus in on the pleasure of making the right decision, right? So getting back on track, right? Formula for getting back on track is first you want to recommit. Okay. And that's what this opportunity is. Now, by the way, you're going to recommit forever. Okay. So this isn't like, okay, well, I got to recommit again. You're going to recommit all the time. This isn't a recommitment is not like a thing you do one time or even once a year. You're consistently recommitting. Okay. When you need to, right? And so what is your reason? You have to nurture and cultivate this reason. It's got to be fresh in your mind. As I get older, my reason changes and it morphs a little bit. Okay. So understand that, but you want that reason front and center. Is if your reason's not strong enough, you're just wasting your time. Right. So if you don't have a solid reason, I would spend 100% of my time until I had a solid reason, because if you don't have a solid reason, you'll never do this. The food tastes too good. It's that simple. You've got to have a big reason why you want to live healthy. Right. And so again, what's your reason? Is it still valid? Right? Is the reason that motivated you 20 years ago still motivate you? It may or may not. If it doesn't, put all your energy into thinking, why do I want to do this? What's my reason? I'll tell you, for me, it's funny because, my father died of a heart attack and that really motivated me health-wise. And as I've been eating more than I typically do, I have felt stuffed and there's feelings of heartburn almost. Okay. But that heartburn, everything that happens in this area of my body it's my heart. It's my heart, right? That's what I have to live with in my life. And so I get a little bit of indigestion or heartburn because I'm kind of stuffed. And it's like instantly, oh, is my heart okay? Because it feels, into that area, it feels that way. And so it's like, boy, I want to stay alive for my kids. I want to be here as long as I can. I'm recommitting to that goal. It's more real now because I'm older. So now I'm 45 and it's like, okay, now's the time to really focus in on this. I want to make myself healthier. Okay. So recommit. Is it still valid? Do I still want to blank? Okay. So do I still want to lose weight? Do I still want to be healthy? I love this question. I sure do. I give myself a little bit of a break. I'm not going to lie. The coronavirus happened and I was like, okay, I'm going to check it out a little bit. I was going to stress out. I was stress eating a little bit here and there. Not crazy, but way more than I would ever allow myself or expect myself to. Okay. Do I still want to lose weight? And now I do want to lose a couple pounds, right? Because I put a couple pounds on. And so, yes, I do. And I've got all the reasons why I want to do that. Do you still want to? That's the important question. And I want you to ask that honestly. I can't tell you how important this question is, because you need to keep that reason front and center 24 hours a day. It's got to become part of you, right? So again, I say this all the time, but if you ask me why I control my weight, it's not so I can wear a certain size clothes, right? That's a small part of it. There's so much to it. I could sit here and talk for hours about why I want to take control of my weight and my health and why it's so important to me. And everything in my life, that reason wraps around, right? Being a good husband, being a good father, being a good son, being a good brother, being a good business person, being a good coach, being blah, 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 blah. Okay. You need to be able to do the same thing. You need to be able to rattle that stuff off. Okay. Why do you work? Right? If I ask you why you work, it's instantaneous. I want to be able to pay for stuff. I want to be able to do things, right? I want to be able to accomplish things. I want to grow and evolve, whatever the reasons are. You've got them right there. And that's why you do it. Anything you do consistently in your life, you've got good reasons to do it. Okay. So you've got to have a good reason for why you want to be healthy and why you want to control your weight. And it's got to be front and center. You can't just assume, well, of course I want to lose weight. That's different. Okay. Yeah. Logically, we all want to do certain things, but are you doing it? And if you're not doing it, it is strictly because you don't want to. You know what I mean? There's not the reason there. So you got to build that up, right? Structural change, what needs to change to support it, right? And so this is what you got to look at right now in your life. Your structure's changed a bit, right? Your structure's changed because of the whole coronavirus thing. But you also know it's 4 or 6 weeks in, so you got some familiarity with the new normal, right? And so it may be a good chance for you to say, okay, what can I put back in place, right? So for me, one of the things is I got to make sure that I go to bed at a certain time. That for me is kind of a linchpin behavior. So if I go to bed at a certain time, everything kind of flows better from that. Doesn't make everything guaranteed perfect, but if I go to bed early, I tend to wake up early, then I meditate. When I meditate, everything kind of flows from there. Okay. So for me, that's a structural change that needs to help. I had another client, she said, if I meditate in the morning before I get out of the bedroom, that's a key factor I want to do. Perfect. Again, it doesn't have to be something crazy, but you're looking for structural behaviors, linchpin behaviors, and typically they're going to happen earlier in the day. And if you do them early in the day, your day tends to follow a different track. Okay, so look for those. And what will be the benefits, right? And when we're talking about benefits, this is the most important thing right here. Typically, we look at things so superficially, and when we try and get ourselves motivated, we're looking at the weight loss. That's it. I want to be smaller. I want to wear smaller clothes, or different clothes. I want to look better. Okay. That's not enough. It's not enough. The big problem with the physical stuff, weight wise, is that it's going to take a while, and our brains naturally are not motivated by things that are going to take a while. Okay. So again, it's a not a good strategy to just focus all your motivation based on losing weight. Okay. It's typically not going to be enough motivation for you. So what you want to do is you want to focus in on the mental and emotional. Okay. The physical, what you can't focus on the physical, I forgot about this until recently, I was kind of overeaten, is feeling stuffed, feeling lethargic. In my mind, I imagine when I feel stuffed, I imagine my cells, because what's happening is you have cells in your body that are getting stuffed. Literally, they're getting forced beyond their capacity. They're getting stretched. And so you can think about that and you can imagine that in your mind. But the key thing I think to focus in on is the mental and the emotional. Okay. And so by mental, I mean, what thoughts do you have in your head? When you overeat, when you make a wrong decision, notice the internal dialogue and how it changes. It gets very negative. You start to think a lot less about yourself. And then the emotions come, right? You feel depressed, you feel guilty, you feel ashamed, you feel frustrated, right? Whatever they may be. That's where I like to focus in on, because those costs, right? So I'm talking about kind of the downside of the pain of it. Those pains and consequences are almost instantaneous, right? The second you choose the ice cream and finish it, again, then it's like, you know what I mean? You feel bad about yourself and you're feeling kind of low. But the flip side is just as true. And that's where we get to the benefits. When you make the right choice, when you don't eat at night, or you eat something really healthy at night, when you don't eat 2 hours before bed, and you go to bed thinking of yourself as the ideal you. You're proud of yourself. You think like, okay, I did it. I can do this. It wasn't that hard. I feel good about myself. That's where we want to be living. Okay. And you start that off all in your head. Okay. I want to be strong. I want to be confident. I want to be successful. I want to do the right things. That feels good. Okay. So think about the mental and emotional, because they're instantaneous. The second you make a right choice, you mentally and emotionally get a boost, and physically. Okay. But mentally and emotionally, I want you to focus in on that, right? Notice how much better you can feel. Because again, we got a new normal now. You've normalized somewhat to the situation, most likely. And so now it's an opportunity for you to say, okay, let me get back on track. Let me get more on track. Right. And so again, you probably maintained certain things. Let's get more. Again, it's not about being perfect. Let's make some more progress. So again, I wouldn't be enough to not leave you without the fundamentals, because this isn't just about eating perfect. It makes me crazy. If all you're going to focus on is the eating, I'll give an example. So it's like my eating has not been perfect at all. And so if all I did is all I said, I just want to control my weight and I want to eat perfect, and all of a sudden I start not eating perfect, at this point here, I would have felt like I'd blown everything. I would have felt like, holy cow, I'd maintained it for 25 years and coronavirus came and wiped out everything. Because now I'm eating like crap. I'm eating at night. I'm eating crappy foods. I'm making the wrong choices. And that would have been it. Binary, right? On or off. And I would have felt like I was off track. And I had nothing else to get me back on track except for saying, oh, I got to get my eating back on perfect. Okay. The difference is that's not what happened. Okay. And that's not what happened when you practice the fundamentals, because my eating has got a little wobbly, but my water has been right there. A little less than normal, I will say, but just a hair less, like 10% less. So virtually nothing. So now my eating's a little off, but I still got my water there. And so again, the water is not only making me feel better physically, making me feel lighter, cleaner. It makes me feel like I'm still have a thread of my health going on. Yeah, the eating got a little wobbly. My water held up strong, still there. Okay. So it's the confidence, the certainty of knowing that habit's there no matter what. And it's there just to benefit me, all the benefits I still get out of it. Okay. So water, it doesn't just have to be eating better. Sleeping and resting. Hopefully you've been doing more of this, but I know there's some people that have been having trouble sleeping because again, there's stress. So this isn't a judgment. It's about it's an opportunity for you to look at things and say, what can I improve now? What thing will work for me? And so getting more sleep, getting more rest is one of the easiest ways there is to start feeling better. Okay. So again, focus on your sleep, focus on your rest. If you can do it, take more naps, rest yourself, because the more rest you get, the more superpower your brain gets, and it starts making better decisions naturally, and everything else gets easier. Relaxation and breathing. Again, if you go back to the regret sheet we had there of all the stresses and the things, the challenges we've had over the last 6 weeks here with the coronavirus, relaxation and breathing is crucial. You've got to let this stress go. If you don't, it just keeps ramping up, And so what the relaxation, the breathing is, well, we all know how to flatten the curve now, right? So it's like a lot of people don't flatten the curve when it comes to their stress, and it just keeps ramping up. The relaxation, the breathing, goes up, and then it kind of comes back down for a minute, and then it comes up a little bit, but then comes back down. And it has the effect of flattening the curve, right? Kind of using that language. Nourishment. Okay. And so again, I like to make the distinction that most weight loss health stuff's talking about what you shouldn't eat, right? But there's a good chance you've been eating things that you shouldn't eat over the last 6 weeks. I want you to make the distinction that yes, there's an aspect of health and weight loss that is concerned with what you should stop eating, right? Stop eating hyperpalatable fattening foods. Okay. But what I want you to do is I want you to split in your mind eating into 2 categories: what you're not supposed to eat, but more important and primarily is what you are supposed to eat and put into your body. Okay. So that it's not, for a lot of people, they're one and the same. So it's like, okay, I'm going to eat perfectly. I'm going to stop eating all the bad stuff. And I'm going to start eating good stuff. And then that works for a little while. And then the second they make a mistake, they just eat the bad stuff. So what we want to do is we want to make a split there. You can eat the bad stuff and still, even more importantly, eat the good stuff. Okay. And so I can tell you that, yeah, some of my eating's got a little wobbly. I still eat my salads, right? I still got the fundamental nourishments in my daily eating, my weekly eating, I should say. And it's still there. Okay. And so what that does, all these things kind of give me a raised, increased baseline of health. Okay. So that even if certain things get wobbly, my fundamentals, my baseline is still high up here. Okay. Because it's not just based around eating. It's all these other factors as well. Movement. Again, I was talking to someone today and they're like, you know what? I found the exercise for me, dancing. So I was so happy for her, because that's what I'm trying to say. We've gotten so conditioned to think of exercising that we hate. I hate exercising, like in terms of working out with weights and gyms. I don't like it. And so I love moving though. I love snowboarding. I love walking. I love riding my bike. I love hiking. I like swimming. I like doing things like that. That's what I like. And so what I'm trying to say to you is that if you can get out of the idea of just exercising, and exercising is fine if you like it, or if that's what works for you. But understand, if you don't like it, there's so many other alternatives. Okay. And again, we go back to the reduce to the ridiculous. If that perfectionist thing, well, the only workout that's worth it is working out at the gym for an hour. And it's like, you tell yourself that, but you haven't worked out in a month. Well, you know what? There is something better than not working out at all. And that's going for a walk, doing a push-up, doing some jumping jacks, going for a ride, dancing around the apartment, whatever. So again, be aware of that. Don't let yourself fall into the perfectionist trap of the movement. I see it all the time. Meditation. I find this to be crucial, especially during a situation like we're in, because there is a lot of back brain processing going on. Your brain is kind of game playing out all the different scenarios that could happen. It's learning about coronavirus. It's wondering what's going to go on. When there's uncertainty, our brain goes into hyperdrive trying to figure things out, and it creates a noisy mind. So being able to meditate, even if it's just for a few minutes, you're kind of bringing your brain, you're quieting it down. Okay. And I can't tell you how valuable that is. I just saw a quote, I'm kind of mashed up a little bit, but basically they're like, meditation, you want to make your mind quiet enough so that you can hear. And that, it kind of makes sense. If you've ever meditated at all, it's like the quieter you get, the more you tap into kind of your natural wisdom. Okay. So meditation, I'm always stressing this because I think it's so valuable. It helps everything else out. All of these do. You understand? And then finally, gratitude. You know what I mean? Like that's one of the key ones here. And I like gratitude. To me has really worked out well, because with all the stress that's going on in our lives, we tend to think, start to feel like it's easy to be ungrateful, right? Because all the things we like to do and all the conveniences and the things we've taken for granted aren't there sometimes, right? And all of a sudden there's these stresses and he's like, oh my God, I have to do this. But it's helpful, I think. my gratitude shot up through the roof with this whole thing happening. Things that I've taken for granted, I realized, wow, I know how lucky I am. The average salary around the world is $5,000. You know what I mean? So it's like, I even understand like financial challenges are very stressful, but I'm even grateful to have those. I'm grateful for all of it because again, you know what I mean? Like there's so much to be grateful for. And there's people that have it so much harder, So again, I think a situation like this, in a way, is really something that can boost up your gratitude. And the more grateful you feel, I think the easier it makes everything else, all the challenges. So again, all of these things kind of work together, and then finally you kind of put it all together in a master ritual, if you want to make it simple, where you're doing, again, you're moving a little bit your body, you are relaxing, you're breathing, you're nourishing, well, you're not nourishing yourself during a master ritual, you're moving your body, you do a few minutes of meditation, and you can kind of bring the gratitude in. So again, the master ritual is just a way to compress all of this stuff. So you're doing it every day. Right. And so again, if you want to go through that specifically, remember, you guys got access to the holistic health blueprint. And that'll show you exactly kind of in detail how to do that. Okay. So, all right. So that's kind of a lot. So I hope that's helped you. And if you have any questions about any of this stuff, feel free to ask them. I saw a couple things in the chat here. Yep. Wendy says, yeah, lowering expectations is gold. It really is. I know it's like counterintuitive. It's like, I don't know, that always drives me nuts because I came from Tony Robbins. He was really, like, to be honest, really the first guy that got me on this path. I remember I got his tapes when I was 19, and that was a big part of my change. But let's face it, he's this, I always like to think of myself, I was saying it jokingly, I'm like the Tony Robbins. I like to think of myself as like a much less ambitious Tony Robbins. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I don't have the ambition level this guy's got, you know what I mean? Like at all, but I love his work. But this idea that like this unstoppableness, this constantly going, this all, great, good for him. You know what I mean? Like he's just that guy, who knows? I mean, the guy's got a tumor in his brain that's squishing on different parts of it. That's why he's 7 feet tall, and why, maybe that affects his energy levels. I'm not saying, I know there's other people that are just got that smash through walls mentality. I don't, and so I like to lower expectations. What am I doing? I don't, it just doesn't resonate with me to be that person who's just always going 1,000%. And I'm not saying you don't have to agree with or disagree with it, but I'm comfortable in that place. And I find it to be helpful. And in my coaching experience, I think that lower expectations a lot of times would serve people better. I really do. So I don't know if that comes across weird. If you don't agree with that, or you're kind of confused by me saying that, feel free to ask some questions. But I think the idea of when the whole world blows up for a few weeks here, that if all of a sudden you're off track, I think that's okay. I think lowering the expectations during that time is the healthier thing to do. So obviously you agree with that, Wendy. I'm glad, because I think that's important. So, all right. So Tamara says, it's only been this last week where I've been craving some alone time. I love having the family home, but having them there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, now for weeks on end, is just starting to get to me. Yeah. Okay. Right. That's what I mean. Like, I'll tell you, here's another thing. I always say this, that like, this is what I love about my wife so much, and in our relationship, is that we're able to say things that aren't really like, I don't want to say politically correct, but you're not, no, it's socially acceptable. Right. And so sometimes we have to carry this facade around that we can't say like, oh, I'm getting stressed out by being around these people too much that you love, But what I want you to understand is that I think it's totally fine to think those things. It doesn't mean you don't love them. You know what I mean? Like it has nothing to do with that. And sometimes, and again, this goes right to the perfectionist idea, this black or white thinking. You can love these people and be tired of seeing them constantly. Like there's nothing wrong with that. And I think when you allow yourself to say that, or to recognize that, or to feel it, what happens is that relieves a lot of pressure. I think there's pressure anyways, right? All of a sudden you're with these people 24 hours a day. That's pressure. But then sometimes we add this extra pressure on ourselves where it's like, we can't be upset about it, or I got to act like everything's fine. And I think that's the pressure that puts us over the top. So I think it's okay to recognize, say, oh my goodness, things are crazy. Like I've noticed that, like I drink more beers, you know what I mean? Like I drink more nights of the week, right? I don't get drunk or anything, but I'd cut it down to like 3 nights a week. I'd have a beer or a couple beers. And it's like, that's kind of shifted into like 3 or 4, sometimes 5. And it's like, I'm not happy with it. I'm not going to live like that forever. But it's like, yeah, some days are just more stressful than others. It's like teaching an 8-year-old kid how to do math and read and write for an hour and a half, 2 hours it's a lot of work. It's just stressful. And it's just like my energy, my gas tank just goes down quick. So I get to the end of the day and I'm not making the same decisions I normally make. So I say this to you so that you know you're not alone. And just because you give into some of those doesn't make you a bad person. It doesn't mean, oh my God, now I'm totally off track. That's what I want you to get rid of more than anything. And that's why I want you to have all these different things you could focus on. I don't want you to feel overwhelmed with them. Okay. I want you to feel supported and encouraged by them, because I look at it like, again, even if I was just drinking a cup of water a day, well, at least I'm doing that. Okay, well, I took a nap today. That was good. At least I went for a 10-minute walk. You know what I mean? Like the little things I'm happy about doing, because I've lowered my expectations during this time. Okay. Yeah. And so, yeah, that's right, Tamara. I'm glad you said that, because if anyone else is dealing with that, and again, it can work both ways. You could be around a lot of people and kind of feeling it, or you could be not around anyone and feeling that. Okay. Totally normal. Okay. Recognize it, acknowledge it, and then you can work on resolving it. All right. But there's no problem with feeling things that don't feel great. Wendy says, lately I've been requiring myself to eat a salad for lunch, a fruit for snack, and then when dinner comes, I stop requiring anything. This way helps to stop me from feeling restricted. Yeah, I like that a lot. Personally, that's what I use. Now, again, I know there's people, you have to understand this with the weight loss thing specifically. You've got to understand that there's such a dieting mentality of all or nothing, right? And so we've covered this before, where it's literally called what the hell effect. This is scientifically studied that dieters specifically, when they go off their diet, even just a little bit, they go all the way off their diet. Right? And that's called the what the hell effect. And so I love what you're saying, Wendy. That's really, your plan is really what is the core of my plan, where my breakfast is the same as it's always been, Monday through Friday. Okay. I won't allow that to change. Now the weekend breakfasts have gotten more extravagant. So, you know what I mean? And so like those have gotten kind of crazier. And then Monday comes and it's like, oh, I'd love to just eat what I ate yesterday. I won't allow myself to do that, because I don't want to get too far off track. So my Monday through Friday breakfasts are the same. I keep them the same. My Monday through Friday lunches are a salad. Those are the same. Okay. Those I'm keeping the same. Dinners, I'm not, again, here's the thing. If I keep those other things the same Monday through Friday, I get a lot less off track. So even if dinner time comes and I'm eating a little bit more, or it's a little bit different than I normally eat, I don't feel all the way off track. You understand? So that's what I'm trying to say is you got to, if you anchor yourself, and I love what you're doing. Again, I would anchor myself to breakfast and then lunch. I would commit to those, and then I would ease up a bit. That would be my suggestion. And again, I'm not saying that works for everyone, but I'm glad you said that, Wendy, because that's exactly what I've been doing as well. And what I would say, almost weight loss, I mean, maybe now you want to get focused again, but even still, it's still stressful and kind of crazy. To me, I don't think it's the worst idea to say, let me put the weight loss thing on hold. Let me put that on hold. I don't want to blow up, but weight loss is not my main focus. The health stuff's my main focus. Let me go all in on getting these things into my life on some level. And then once everything kind of gets back to normal, or I get kind of used to my new normal, then I'll kind of bring it back to what I'm not eating. Because that's what weight loss is, what I'm not eating. Okay. So let me focus on these things. Let me focus on what I'm putting into my body, getting healthy stuff in there at least somewhat. And I'll do the not eating. I'll kick down the road a little bit. Okay. Not the worst thing in the world, because again, you're still working on something. All right. Pat says the harder I am on myself, the worse I feel. I end up feeling disappointed in myself. Yeah, exactly. Pat, for you, I would go right back to, let me get this real quick. Oh, here we go. This thing is crazy. Okay. Yeah, actually, whoops, forgot this last slide. Let me go through this real quick, just kind of focus you in. So the number one habit, this is kind of dial in I just want to get this real quick before I get the rest of your comments. What's the number one habit you want to focus on and implement over the next few weeks? Okay, just kind of break it down. Again, reduce to the ridiculous. What other habits do you want most important to you over the next couple of weeks? What are your biggest challenges? How can you deal with those? All right, so good. That's kind of, we've kind of mentioned them, but those are just written out. So Pat, getting back to your point, let me see something real quick. Where'd the comments go? Let me get this. Second. There we go. Okay. So Pat, what I would suggest here is I would do this here. See, Pat, you put this on yourself. Okay. What I would suggest is that you take it off of yourself, almost look at yourself objectively, right? So it's like, when I eat the wrong food or when I eat too much at night, how do I feel? And I would look at the pain of it. When I overeat at night, I feel depressed. I feel bored. I feel frustrated. Okay. Then I would flip it over. How do I want to feel? I don't want to eat at night because I want to feel, and again, I don't know which one of these are most impactful for you, or if none of them are. If none of them are, go to powerthesaurus.com and find the words that resonate with you. And so it becomes, when I overeat, I feel depressed. I feel frustrated, stressed, nervous, confused, resentful, right? Or other words, again, whatever resonates with you. So you're not saying you're a bad person. I feel horrible about myself. You're saying that behavior equals pain. And the specific flavor of it is one of these. And I want to feel instead, I want to feel healthy, light, successful, courageous, whatever those words are for you. Okay. Because you can't keep getting caught up in this you bad thing. It's not that. Listen, you do what you do because you associate pain to not doing it and pleasure to doing it. Okay. You make poor food choices consistently because you attach pain and deprivation and loss to not doing it and pleasure to doing it. It's that simple. And so what you're looking to do is reframe these, reconnect these so that the eating at night, and you don't have to lie to yourself, right? The eating at night or the making poor food choices or the overeating or the binging, this is how you feel afterwards. You feel these things. No lie about it. Okay. So it's about in your mind kind of reframing it. That snacking at night, no, it makes me feel depressed. It's not, oh, I shouldn't do it. That's the wrong thing to do. I can't eat those things. That is language that's going to make you do them. Okay. When you start thinking, if I do that, I'm going to wake up tomorrow, I'm going to be depressed. I'm going to start my day depressed tomorrow. I'm going to feel dejected. I'm going to be angry with myself all night tonight before I go to bed. And I'm going to have a restless night's sleep. And I'm going to wake up tomorrow frustrated with myself. And I'm going to start my day out feeling crappy if I make this decision. And if I don't make that, if I make the decision to just drink water instead or have a piece of fruit, I'm going to feel happy about myself. I'm going to feel excited. I'm going to feel confident. I'm going to wake up tomorrow feeling energized and proud of myself. Okay. That's the work. Okay. The beating yourself up stuff doesn't work. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't. It never does, but I get it. Right. So we do that. But this is what I'm trying to tell you is the alternate is this here. So Jill says, as a fitness professional and aging gracefully specialist, totally spot on, Jim. These principles are priceless when applied. Rest and meditation really help calm my mind and funky eating. Being forgiving of self, accepting the insanity made us all nuts. Yeah, that's right. It's an acceptance that, okay, and this crazy thing happened. I don't have to be perfect during it. I know it may sound strange when I say it out loud, but I can't tell you how many calls I've done where when you really just look under the surface, people are they're whipping themselves for not being perfect during a global pandemic. And I know it sounds silly when I say it out loud, but I promise you, majority of the calls I have, this is what I'm hearing. Okay. So you hit it right on the head, Jill. That's perfect. Right. And the rest of the meditation, calm the mind and the eating, because you have to understand the eating. So Tony Robbins, I know there's this list up here. He has the 6 human needs, right? And so the first 3 are certainty, variety, and significance. And all 3 of those things have disappeared with the coronavirus. I should put this on here because it's valuable. The certainty obviously has disappeared. The variety has disappeared. We can't go to restaurants anymore. We're eating the same food. We're cooking for ourselves. It's boring. We have the same boring life, right? There's no variety. We can't leave our house, right? And so what's the best way to increase variety? It's to eat food, right? So again, it's normal. And then significance, right? Our significance has gone down because we can't do anything. Right? We're kind of just stuck at home isolated, right? So if you take our needs and all of a sudden you just wipe them all out, it increases the possibility that you're going to eat food to fill some of those needs. Okay. It's completely normal and natural. And again, the more you understand it, I think the more you kind of let it go and you understand the mechanics running behind the scenes that are influencing your behaviors. Right. And so Pat says, I think because of this current situation, I cannot help but feel I should be able to get more done, not less. It feels good to give myself a break. Yeah. That's why I showed you this list here. I probably should have titled something different. I mean, I should have called it unconscious effects of the coronavirus, right? Uncertainty and emotional roller coaster, the disappearance of routines and cues, increase of exposure to people, and disappearance of some of the most important human needs we have just been wiped out and gone. So again, I know, like, again, perfectionist, right, says, oh, now I got more time. Now I got more things to do. Now I got more time to do stuff. I mean, you do have more time, but time is not what gets things done. What gets things done is mental clarity, mental focus. And you're completely not going to be mental focused during a global pandemic when all of a sudden your entire life has been upside down. So you understand, you give me all the time in the world. If I'm completely scattered psychologically, if I'm wiped out mentally, the time is not what gets things done. Mental clarity and focus is what get things done. Mood, attitude, and all those things have taken a huge hit because of this. And if you don't recognize that, again, it's an opportunity to beat yourself up. You know what I mean? But again, this is a legitimate excuse or reason, you know what I mean, for all this happening. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So again, remember the weight loss on hold. Now, again, I want to point this out because I always like to say this, that in my opinion, I feel like you should make the weight loss secondary, that the weight loss should be a natural consequence and effect of the new decisions in lifestyle that you're living. Okay. And so if you make the new focus being, I want to feel better about myself physically, mentally, and emotionally, I want my mind to kind of be calmer. I want emotionally to feel more balanced and more positive. Physically, I want to feel lighter and just cleaner and healthier, right? That's my main goal. That's what I want to do. To do those things, if you make those things happen, there is a very high chance that your weight's going to be influenced as well in a positive way. Okay. So again, when I say making the weight loss secondary, I'm not saying don't think about the weight loss, because the weight loss is always important to me, but making the weight loss a primary goal doesn't usually work, just strictly because it's an extrinsic goal. Okay. I was talking about this last week. It's an extrinsic goal that it's not intrinsic. Intrinsic goals are, again, want to eat food, want to have shelter, want to be warm, want to be safe. You know what I mean? Like food and the weight part of it, it's just a different motivator. So again, I would suggest during this time that you focus more on the health part of it. And plus, by the way, I didn't even mention this, but the other side of it is this, that if you've ever been worried about your health, now is a great time to worry about your health. I mean, so often the health things that we deal with are chronic, okay? Meaning that we might be pre-diabetic, might be type 2 diabetic, you might have some heart issues, might have high blood pressure, you might have different factors going on, but they're kind of managed. And all of a sudden this coronavirus is acute. And it says, okay, if you get this, you could be dead in 2 weeks, right? If you have these underlying issues. So I hope that you use this as motivation and utilize the situation to really focus on your health, right? Don't let this food and this modern lifestyle take you out of this earth quicker than you need to. Okay. Let yourself focus on these healthy things so that you can stay on the planet longer. That's a great motivator. And that's an intrinsic motivator, survival. Right. So, again, I think if you focus more on health right now, I think it's congruent with the situation we're in. And again, if you get healthier, if you start doing the healthy things, your weight's going to be impacted in a positive way, most likely, right? I mean, how could it not? And even if it wasn't, it would still be easier to lose the weight. Okay. Once you have that solid foundation of health in place, it's easier to say, okay, I'm going to stop eating those foods. Okay. Yeah. So, yeah, being forgiven myself. Yeah, I'm telling you, the forgiving things is so crucial, especially for all the people in this group, because again, the perfectionist thing's the opposite of being forgiven. It's just constantly being guilty. You know what I mean? Like you're being charged and guilty of something. Yeah. Okay. So someone said that the acknowledgement that we're in an emotional roller coaster is huge. And I'm glad because again, I know there's this idea that no matter what the situation, we should be able to just handle it perfectly. And I don't know. That's so stupid. That just doesn't make any sense. I always say to people, speaking of sickness, it's like thinking like if you get the flu and you're like really sick, that you should be able to operate the same level that you normally do. And you can't, right? Because you need to heal. So you need to kind of take a step back and calm down, right? So physically, we kind of get that. If we get sick, I need to kind of take a step back and kind of relax a little. But this is a mental thing. Okay. It's the same thing. You need to take a step back and kind of calm down and relax, right? You're mentally kind of sick in a way. You know what I mean? Like you're taxed. You're not sick, but you're being taxed. You're using up lots of mental energy that you may not even realize. It's all running unconsciously. Okay. And so, it leads to an emotional roller coaster and we're all on it. I mean, who's someone who's not on an emotional roller coaster during this? You have to be a robot, right? I don't know how anyone could be. Jill says, I think the fear factor in this pandemic triggered a lot of people's crazy eating. Yeah, I know I was in a lot of fear for a while. Yeah, we all were and are. I think it was worse. I think it's kind of, again, there's two things going on in terms of the fear part. One is that we're acclimating to it, right? We're getting used to this new normal. So it's like, okay. And then the second part is I think maybe it's not going to be as bad as it could have been, or maybe we're going to start managing it better, but mostly it's kind of, we're just normalizing. Okay. You get normalized to things. And this we know for sure. But it was new at first and it was very scary and it was very unsettling and uncertain. So, please give yourself a little bit of leeway if you were stressing out or freaking out about this. Okay. Because again, like I was joking with a lot of clients. I've been saying, if you can't freak out during a global pandemic, when can you freak out? Right? I mean, come on. You got to give yourself a little bit of leeway here, right? And a global pandemic is as good a reason as I can imagine. All right. So, all right, everyone. I hope you guys this helps you out. But again, I think if there is one word, it's kind of acceptance of yourself over the last 6 weeks. Okay. How, by the way, let me give you one more. I always say this to people. One way to flip this around, and again, all of you are like this. I'm like this perfectionist part. You hold yourself to such a high level, but one way to kind of get around that is if someone you really loved and cared for was in the exact same situation as you've been in, and they were upset with how they'd been, what would you say to them? Right. So if you kind of flipped it around and like, if there was someone that you know and love and they were in the exact same situation you were in and they were beating themselves up about it, would you pile on and beat them up too? Or would you be much more compassionate and sympathetic to them? Right. I already know the answer. You'd be much more compassionate and sympathetic to them. Please give some of that to yourself. Right. Again, I always joke, if beating yourself up worked, I would tell you to do it. It would be a fun way to go about things, just beating yourself up, but it just doesn't work. Okay. Being more compassionate, understanding with yourself will, I promise you. Okay. So awesome. So, all right, everyone, you guys are awesome. Keep it up and use this as an opportunity to kind of get focused now, not on perfection, but what's one thing you can do? Kind of come back to this again. Let me put this on this one more last time. Is again, what's number one? What's one habit that you want to focus on right now? Right, every week, kind of focus on one habit that you want to either reinforce or you want to implement. Okay, and focus on that, and let yourself feel good from implementing that one habit. And then next week you can add on to that. Okay, but there's nothing wrong with doing that. All right, everyone, have an awesome week, and we'll talk next week. Good night, everyone.